I don't want to kill the conversation necessarily, but on the screen of the camera, the little volume bars are right in my crotch, and so every time people really talk loudly, it's like I have a big, like, sideways erection. I want to.
I feel very uncomfortable being next to you right now.
I can't.
That comment is our cold open.
The podcast you're about to listen to may contain objectionable language, adult and or immature content, mentions of Jesus Christ, and unironic readings of holy Christian scriptures. If any of this is likely to offend you in a manner that you find less than enjoyable, maybe don't listen.
Hi, I'm Pastor Bob Schaefer.
And I'm Pastor Eric Damon. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome to CPTB, which doesn't stand for Costumed People Trading Blows.
It does not stand for that.
Well, it might this week.
We could put costumes on and trade blows, though.
And then we would be LARPing!
And we could... No, we're actually going to beat the crap out of each other. We're not. There's going to be no role playing involved. It's just costumes and violence.
Do I need to be afraid of you in this moment?
I don't have a costume, Bob.
I don't have violence.
All right, we're good.
Okay, we're good.
But we are not even doing CPTB again this week. Just to our listeners, we do remain committed to bringing funny people onto this show, but we are beholden to the almighty algorithm to continue producing content, and in the ever Sisyphean struggle to put content on top of the hill, we have back with us our pastor gamers to discuss the overlap of preaching, comedy, gaming, whatever we can to make sure that we continue to have something with pastors talking about Bible. Welcome back, Ryan Cobert. How are you doing?
Doing all right. Still.
Okay.
Still.
Yeah. No, it's been 2 weeks.
Yeah. Totally.
2 weeks. You are still doing good.
I can't believe I wore the same shirt twice.
I know you're a dirty. I guess I'm wearing the same thing too.
It's kind of embarrassing, Ryan.
Hey,
that you're wearing the same thing.
You want to talk.
And Brian Bennett back with us again, also wearing the same outfit.
I'm doing phenomenal, thank you.
He said pointedly.
And so as for the listeners, what happened 2 weeks ago, for us, what happened 2 weeks ago also, is we started talking about the overlap in gaming, role-playing, and really kind of unpacked for folks like myself who don't know what gaming, really that culture is, or even how you play different role-playing games are. This time I want to open up. So I have no real exposure to the culture. All of it comes through people that I met in seminary, which is why I describe the D&D to pastor pipeline, that there seems to be something that being involved in that culture puts people into a primed state to end up in a preaching role, at least in my experience, which for those of us that are completely outside of the culture, at least to understand the perception from the 80s it was a demonic thing that to enter into that meant you were gonna leave the church and do evil things, and that has not been my experience, and I'm wondering if you have the same experience that I do, that there is a real connection between the one and the other, and if so, why do you think that is? What about the one is connected to the other?
Great question.
Right. Yep.
I'm just trying to think, like, can I prove you wrong? Well, I DM for a group of pastors. I'm a part of a group of pastors. And the other game that Brian and I are in together, we have almost all pastors. And we have a high school?
High school English teacher and
a funeral director.
Yeah. And the rest are pastors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, granted, amongst the four of us, we do self-select to have pastors involved in our
That's fair.
social
That's
circles.
fair.
But
Well, because that's the only people we can get to be friends with us. So, because you tell any other person in the world, I'm a pastor, like, yeah, we'll see you next week. Bye. I'm leaving. So,
The gaming bone's connected to the clergy bone. Clergy bone's connected to the nope bone.
No, it doesn't. Just doesn't connect at all.
are you saying there's no boning in pastors?
Oh man.
Or in gaming.
It's, no, well, let me. No.
I mean, within the normal circle of this podcast, I think that, I mean, I grew up watching, I mean, I would flip through the channels till I saw somebody standing in front of a brick wall and just watch comedies since I was like in second grade. That's been a love. But part of just what makes me actually go out and do it at such a low level as regularly as I do is I have found that comedians are also a group of people that will hear you're a pastor and go, okay, I want to tell my joke now. And that's, I mean, there isn't that weirdness level of you might have some kind of, there's just okay, that's what you do, acceptance. And I guess to me, within the gaming world, I mean, I guess the real thing to me is that I did not have a connection to gaming before seminary and knew a bunch of pastors that did it. And now, I mean, come to think of it, there are now comics that I know that are definitely heavily involved in that world. I mean, the here's my clips and here's my gaming streaming thing is a pretty common overlap. I wonder if some of that is just the popularity in our culture that I happened to enter both at a time that it became popular, or if there really is a connection between the coming together in that sort of environment that overlaps with, I find something valuable about leading church world.
Well, I think first off, right, no pastor comes in without deep abiding connection to just culture. Like the culture matters, right? What we're in, right? So I know, Ryan, video games, and that's a huge part of our culture, especially for youngins like you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And like, I don't know why people are so surprised that some of us are like, hey, we engage in culture, you know, like we're not set apart from the beginning. It's not like, you know, Samuel living in the temple constantly, you know, where we watch TV shows, we, you know, do stuff. I'm literally doing a master's of sacred theology on comic books. Like we're all wrapped up in these things. That's going to come with us. It's all our, in RPG, that's our backstory.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then when we get into ministry, we also find, I don't know that it's a pipeline. It's just, it's the clothes on our back that we carry into ministry. Some of us have found ways then to use it so I've had a running since 2016. I've had a game going on at the campus ministry every Sunday afternoon, if there's no people who show up, which there usually is. But
and so that's actually a part. So we have a handful of regular listeners who will not be at all familiar that is the type of ministry you do, that your campus ministry.
I'm not a pastor
at
of a
congregation,
right.
that you do campus ministry. And so give some background of, I mean, Bob and I talk a bit about our congregational life, but what is the general day-to-day? What's your role as being a campus
So
minister?
actually, we've come down. We use our mission statement to talk about creating community centered on Christ's love for all to send out faithful leaders. That's the tagline, right? But at the heart of it, it's creating community, right? And nothing helps create community better. I think. Well, there's a number of things, but we have a weekly meal that creates community. Where people sit around and talk. Jesus was doing that, right? And we have, you know, sitting around a table telling a story together.
Yeah.
That's part of that too. So I've had people become really active in the ministry because they just showed up. They're like, "Can I play D&D?" Like, come on in, pull up a chair, and suddenly they're there all the time. So,
And Ryan has a completely different context that,
Way different.
yes.
Well, not way different. I guess more in line with what you guys do. Have pastoring a congregation in a small town. Yeah. No parking lot. Yeah.
And do you invite your people to come and play D&D?
No.
No.
And that's
Let's just say I bring the average age down a lot.
You young'un.
Yeah, no, we have an older group of folks. I mean, there's some younger families too, but no, we don't tabletop game at the church. Really, it's not something that has ever come up.
I
Really?
like to think that's because you guys just all go out LARPing.
that is.
I'm sorry, I cannot imagine some of my people.
Think of
even
the
doing
oldest
that.
matriarch of your church with a sword in hand.
She would love it. I'm not gonna lie, she would love that. Holding the walker on one hand and the sword in the other.
Mildred, careful, your hip. Come on.
There are.
No, so we don't do tabletop gaming, but we do other things around the table, not just on Sunday. Like for Bible study, we go to Eaton Park because it's level, there's parking, and we don't have to cook or clean anything. Everybody else does it for us. But it is that coming together around the table. And while we don't 100% do Bible study, we also talk about everything else in our lives. So it is a around the table community building, and friendships have grown stronger from that. And I think that tabletop gaming offers that too. We come together around a common process, a common theme, common game, and then we build relationships from that. Because even while you're playing a game, real life comes up. If you show up to the table and you look like you've had a rough day, people aren't just going to be like, "All right, here's your dice, let's go." No, they're going to talk to you and ask, "What's going on, man? How are you doing?"
Play is important. We build relationships through play, and we learn and practice skills through play.
Thank you,
and
Mr. Rogers.
Yeah. I aspire to be compared to Fred. So thank you for that. Yeah, you've stroked my ego.
Well, right. I think the issue is we think play is only a kid's thing.
Yes.
Right. And
It's not.
it's not, right? And then we want to find ways that we continue to play because it gets us to ask the questions. And I think the best play is playing in ways that we don't have to worry about winners or losers, right? But how do we end up cooperative playing together, right? And that's so much more helpful in the life of a community.
I mean, I think and you're saying that folks got involved, they just wanted to play the D&D campaign. I think an important part of it is not even just whether it's collaborative or competitive. It's the fact that there was an opening without expectation to just play. I mean, I think one of the most successful things, successful is the wrong word, but one of the most enjoyable things that we've done when we normally just bring comedians and not other pastors on here to talk is they're really here just to be comics. We're not here to try and evangelize, or we are going to talk Bible. That in the title, we're comedians with pastors talking Bible. Bob and I are not going to set our faith aside for it, but we really just want them to come and tell jokes, be funny, have a good time, and that's it. We're going to play, and there's no expectation beyond that. If something more comes from it, great. But I'm not keeping score as to what comes after. The idea is to just gather together and play, and that's good enough.
Yeah, that's it, right? Because I think with you guys, it's your expectation you're going to talk Bible, but you don't have any guardrails on what they're going to bring up.
No.
Right? And so they can just be themselves.
Yeah.
Which is the best way to engage it. Right? And the number of folks who come in and join our table, even if they don't like worship with us, right? Maybe they'll come to a meal. There's just ways they understand the ethos of our community because we're like, yeah, come do this thing that is a lot of fun, even though other folks don't like it, whatever. So
So what do you guys personally enjoy most about the different kinds of gaming that you do? I mean, it seems like it's been a lifelong sort of a play for you. So what keeps you coming back? How have you not gotten bored with it over all of these years? Even you youngins.
It's interesting you say that because I'm on another playthrough of Fallout 4. So if you know if you've watched Fallout on Amazon, yes, that's how the games play. Ridiculous, off the wall. But this is like, I don't know, my 4th or 5th playthrough. Why do I keep going back? Because there's so much story in there, and it's not just story that's just interacted with other NPCs, other characters in the game. There are stories that even just like the environment tells you that you have to kind of figure out. So it's just discovering like, oh, what new thing can I see here that I've never seen before? For instance, this run, I'm like determined and really driving myself. Don't go the same routes, the same path, the same things you've done. Go off the beaten path. Make that left instead of the right this time. Take a look and see what's there. And I've discovered some really random things that I don't think I've ever seen before.
I like that there's this familiarity, but then you are rejecting the familiarity. You are intentionally challenging yourself to go in different paths that the game apparently allows.
Yeah, it's an open sandbox, so you can choose to go whatever direction, really. But I think that's true also with like the tabletop gaming with other players. It's the discovery of, okay, what's coming next? I don't know. Even as the DM, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I have a framework that can be either built upon or completely rejected. But either way, some story is going to get told, and there's a mystery about that, and we get to tell it together. And I think that's what keeps drawing me back.
Mm-hmm.
I like the immersive setting of a world, right? That allows you to do different things. Usually I end up with some sort of heroic character, right? There's some sort of aspirational element there. There's I think it's the same reason I keep returning. My kids will walk in, I'll be watching Lord of the Rings, right? And I'm like, why do you know, Dad, there's new movies that have been made since then. And I go, no, there's not. No. And there is really something interesting to be about in a fantasy world, right? To try to experience an existence very different from what you have. And it's not escapism. I think some people talk, and if you use it for escapism, I'm not dissing that at all. It's the question of, for me, what are the choices that we do? Why would I choose this? Why did I do that? Why, you know? And I mentioned before about interrogating human existence, and I just think it's a fascinating way to do that. It's just the way we do that as we analyze novels and stories. We can do the same thing with, why did I make that choice? Why, you know, what made my character do that there? And it really does become a sense of that character becomes its own force as you play it and become more and more familiar with it, and they'll make decisions, you know, that you wouldn't make yourself. So
I mean,
it's almost therapeutic.
Yeah. So like, I don't do the gaming aspect of it, but I mean, I joke about reading romantasy novels, but I actually do. A couple years ago, I got one accidentally out from the library, and I have been just sucked into the genre. I forget which one was the first one. I forget the name of it that I got out, but it was it looked like it was just going to be a regular fantasy because I read, and then right off the bat, you just knew that the mysterious man who came into town was way too sexy for a normal book. But it's I'm thinking of an example of one that just really does the way that the world lets you put a mirror on our world. I think it's the Crowns of Craxion or something it's called. I don't. But it is, on the surface, it is a world that is inhabited by entirely vampires. And the main character is the only human in the world, and she has been raised by the vampire king. Ridiculous, over-the-top fantasy stuff. But what you then have is a young woman who has been told her entire life that she is a prey in a world of predators, who the only predator she can trust is her father. And if she goes out from her father's advice, she will unquestionably be attacked by one of the predators in the world. And you can start to unpack what this is saying about the life of a young woman in the world in which we live. And it really paints, and it takes that over the top fantasy element of it to be able to just kind of, if you just said all of that in a realistic, real-life book, it would not get you involved into the humanity of the character in a way that having them be completely inhuman makes possible. And that's, so yeah, I joke about the dirty scenes in the books, but there is, I find that the people writing these books are exploring just really impressive topics in ways that you need a fantasy world to do it. And that seems to overlap with except you guys have an interactive element where you then get to not only have the fantasy world, but then ask the questions of how do you respond in this world, not just how does the author say that this character would respond in the world.
Right. Well, especially as a DM, I'll be like, I'll say to Ryan, like, what does that look like? Tell me what that does. Like, and so if he's doing something, not just his action, and but it'll be like, what does that mean for you? How does, and so he gets to sort of explain some of what his character is doing, right? Or someone is they're an adherent of a particular God, and I'm like, oh, so what does that mean for you? How does, tell us more. What does that look like? What does that spell look like when you cast it? And how does that, and it helps you think about whether, and I think that becomes a lens for us to understand the character more.
It's interesting the putting yourself into the character that I got recruited into one particular campaign, not even a campaign, just
it was just a one shot,
a one shot,
teaching you how to play the game.
Yes, and I had fun with it. I also I was awkward with that I felt inhibitions about how do I play like this. And when I was a child, I used to be able to do that, just inhabit a character that I was creating and making up. That I can think of the different games that I played, and I liked playing a lot of different characters. And somewhere along the line, I lost the ability to fluently do that. I think of when my niece Cosima was playing. We were playing with Legos or something like that, and she was she was making the people talk, as kids do, and she wanted me to play, or maybe it was even with Barbies. I don't even know. And I could play, but I couldn't do it in the first person, where I am voicing the character and making the character do things. I would instead prompt, like, what if they do this? And so that's interesting to me that there's there. Do you find that this is something that you experience sometimes, either in gaming or in life? Did you feel that at the start and you had to get over it, or do you find that new players often have that kind of inhibition to play that way? Or maybe I'm just weird. It's okay for you to say that too.
I mean, you are weird, but
yeah.
I don't know. I think it depends on the person and how much they have dug into who they are. I mean, we were talking about LARPing 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
It was 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. I'm living into that. LARPing, you literally are that person. You can't speak about yourself in the third person unless that's how you created your character, to be that disassociated with themselves. But you physically are. But I can see where that disconnect can happen if you're moving a minifigure on a table. It makes it like, oh, okay, there is a separation. I'm not physically there. I'm the hand of God reaching down and moving this and token to different places. But yeah, I think it does take a little bit of practice to really like embody that character, that creation of yours. And yeah, asking yourselves, and I think it comes down to asking yourselves, okay, what would that character do? Because you have to look into who that character is. And if you're not used to doing that yourself, asking that question of yourself, well, why do I do it this way? how can I live this way? What would happen if you're not used to asking yourself that question, you're not going to easily slide into a character on a tabletop.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy to start that way. Right?
No, it's not.
And honestly, like some folks get really intimidated by the notion of, oh, I got to come up with a funny voice or whatever for the character, and you don't have to.
Or self-conscious even.
They've been very self-conscious, but it's also, I think that's also part of the role of a good DM is to help them bring that out. Like, I want to persuade the guard to let us go by, right? Well, the best DM doesn't just go, well, roll a persuasion check. It's like, what does your character say, right? And just starts to. I mean, it's a simple thing, and they could say even the dumbest thing, and you let them roll. But maybe they say something that's really smart, and you're like, oh, well, you roll that with advantage, which is a way of giving them a better odds of success because they've said something that you're like, that is really persuasive, and we're just gonna. It's a little incentive to role play a little more confidently, right? Just I've never told anybody to roll with disadvantage because they gave just the dumbest reason.
You don't even get to roll. Go home.
You just killed it. Forget it. Never mind. You're so bad at this. What are you even doing here? No, that's so. I think that the good DMs really help pull that out of people. Like a good director. I think sometimes we think about that.
Creative play involves putting yourself out there in a way that is vulnerable.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. And that seems like part of the nature of this kind of play. It's not just a game of Uno where you are really not putting a lot of your personal investment into those cards. This is something where you are creating something, and even if it is a character that is quite different from yourself, it is still an expression, an exploration that you are engaging in, and that is kind of a vulnerable thing.
It is, and you have to be comfortable with the people you're playing with to be able to get into that, because games can get really emotional. This past week, whenever I was camp playing, I had like the inverse of that, I guess. Like they were coming up against a hag who they had crossed in the past and reoccurring villain, and who got dirt on their backstory. And so me as Ryan, Pastor Ryan, playing this and saying, like, coming up with dirt on their characters, saying, oh, you're not lovable, that's why your father, like that kind of nasty talk. They were okay with me saying that because, one, we had the deep connection to say, okay, you're talking about the character, not me, clearly. But also that's hard because I had to be vulnerable enough to say that line, like, you are not lovable. Without repercussion, like with understanding, like, oh, we get it. The hag is being a complete and total ass right now. So there does need to be, there is that vulnerability and that emotion that can come up. And that's what you get whenever you have a table that's worked together to build up that trust, to be able to tell that story and be vulnerable and open about it.
And that's rare.
Which I feel like would end up getting, if you were just starting new campaigns, two different responses to that. You would have the folks who I am not vulnerable enough to do that, but then also the folks who I am not invested in the game enough to understand that we need to be vulnerable to do that. And that probably, if you get both of those together, that makes everybody way more self-conscious, because one of them is feeling very exposed and the other is feeling like this is all trying to make me feel things exposed that I don't understand. And that's got it. I mean, I guess we're back to 2 weeks ago. We talked about the overlap between being a pastor and being a DM. And I think that being able to walk people through that there is actually a connection to humanity that we have to have here. Yeah. And some of you are going to feel it a lot. And some of you are going to think this is kind of silly if you're doing like Taizé worship. Some of you are going to be really emotional right now. And some of you are going to sit there waiting until we're done with the song. And we need to have a space for both of you to feel okay with that.
And there's another overlap there, too. Like, you coming in as a newly called pastor, you're not going to have the same kind of relationship you with your people until you get to know them, until you enter their spaces of vulnerability. I don't think, I think that as a pastor, one of the ways and quickest ways that we make a connection and a deep connection with people is doing a funeral for one of their loved ones, because we are being invited into that space that is so sacred and so devastating to their lives. They've lost a loved one, and we're being asked to be a part of it. And I think there's very few things that can make such a deep connection so quickly than a funeral. And I hate saying that because it's such a sad time, but you can talk to people differently when you've walked with them through burying a loved one than if you've only seen them for an hour on a Sunday every week.
And a lot of that experience, too, is both hearing their story, but also as the pastor, as you step into that, you are also helping them narrate the story and shaping the story that they are telling. That part of pastoral care is taking the thing that they have brought and where there is hurt to be, and redeeming sounds too grandiose because none of us is able to redeem a story, but to name the places where God has been active in the story and may have been overlooked. It is a shaping and a framing and that kind of, at its best, a collaborative storytelling experience.
It is.
I think that's exactly right. I think, and so finding ways, and they will hear what you say better when you have taken them seriously, when you have been with them, when you've built up that trust and allow them to be vulnerable, rather, and so that, if they've heard you cuss a few times, it's probably helpful, so.
And allow them to be vulnerable in the way that is natural to who they are.
Exactly.
I mean, that's because we've got folks that vulnerable means I'm willing to cry around you. And we have folks that being vulnerable and being just naturally who I am means I'm willing to cuss around you. Yeah. And those are that is two things that two very different people will need to feel that they can actually be free to be themselves around you, which is my transition to our scripture, Bob.
All right.
Because we have people accusing on both ends of the religious spectrum that one person is too austere and extreme and another person is too much of a happy-go-lucky partier. And when will they be pleased?
Well, with that intro, we are looking at the scripture for the 6th Sunday after Pentecost, which is Sunday, July 5th. Here we go from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 11. Jesus spoke to the crowd, saying, "To what will I compare this generation? It is like children sitting in the marketplaces and calling to one another, 'We played the flute for you, and you did not dance. We wailed, and you did not mourn.' For John came neither eating nor drinking, and they say, 'He has a demon.' The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and they say, 'Look, a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners.' Yet wisdom is vindicated by her deeds." At that time, Jesus said, "I thank you, Father, Lord of heaven and earth, because you have hidden these things from the wise and the intelligent and have revealed them to infants. Yes, Father, for such was your gracious will. All things have been handed over to me by my Father, and no one knows the Son except the Father, and no one knows the Father except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son chooses to reveal him. Come to me, all you who are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my burden is light."
We actually had a even more pertinent transition from our discussion. I mean, these children in the market are playing the role-playing game that they want the adults to get involved in, and they're complaining because the adults wouldn't get involved in it. That we played the flute for you, and you didn't come dance and join in that game, and then we wailed and cried, and you wouldn't join in that game.
It's like driving by when kids are yelling, "Honk the horn," and you just ignore them when you drive.
that is a cold, heartless person.
I know. You got to
That's-
honk the horn.
That is, I mean, if I was a truck driver, I would live for the kids asking me to honk that horn. That is, must do what the kids say. But it is, I mean, as you said, though, there is a point. I mean, the honking the horn is one thing. It is a cold, heartless person that won't do that little bit for a child. But then to actually, as you said, get involved in the fantasy world of the child is that's a whole different step that I think Jesus's listeners could have heard that part and realized, how many times have I done that? How many times have the children come running by asking for me to get involved in that game? And I gave them a little polite nod, and I didn't want to be a jerk to them, but I didn't start dancing with their game they played.
And the children are flexible with their play. I mean, look, they are playing flutes for dances, and if that's not okay, hey, they will wail and let's play mourning and funeral. They just want to play, and they will play whatever game you want to play. They're inviting you into it, and the point is the play, not the particular game. And this is. I think Jesus is saying the point is that you're called into this relationship and into the play, and instead your very serious grown-up reaction is grumble, 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 Jesus, grumble, 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 Jesus. Not right. Beneath my dignity. Grr, arr.
And I see that even like further down, you've hidden these things from the wise and intelligent and revealed them to infants. The children, they just jump right into the game. They're invited and they come and play. And if Jesus is inviting and the people are jumping right in and playing, the children get it.
And it's where we're so distracted by all the things that we think are important. I mean, I think that you see that in the transition from it's the children to then talking about John the Baptist and himself is, I mean, you thought doing your little adult world stuff was what was so important that when John came, 100% austere. I mean, not eating, not drinking, just as in the desert, being as much of an aesthetic as you could be.
Wild honey.
That was he must be.
There's something wrong with him.
What a weirdo!
I mean, that's way too much. He's gonna, and then okay, so then I came to you and said, let's have a meal and sit down and. Well, why aren't you more religious? I mean. There's a very prescribed, you must fit into our narrow adult world of how things happen. And I think this is an invitation to play. This is an invitation to experience the full range of the human experience and understand that it could all be godly.
Just like the adults in the marketplace are not rejecting the flute and dance, and they're not rejecting the wailing in the morning, they're rejecting the invitation to play in whatever form it comes. And there isn't a form that's going to come that is going to draw them in because they have rejected the play itself as something that they are unwilling or unable to do, maybe just in that moment, that the marketplace, I have grown up important things to do in the marketplace, and I can't play right now. And the same way, the criticism of John isn't about the ascetic lifestyle, and the criticism of Jesus is not about the drunkards and the sinners and everything. It is in both cases that however John or Jesus presented, you would be rejecting them because you are not open to the invitation to come and play. And that's what I want you to do. That's what John wanted you to do, was to come and be a part of this thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it is more difficult for some folks to see what John is doing as play than what Jesus is doing. But anyone who's involved in ultra running or triathlon can understand how there is an element of putting myself through great struggle that is play, that there's something that happens there. I mean, I am a cyclist and a runner, and I will never be a great competitive one. there's absolutely, you get nothing for finishing a marathon. You could just stay home and you have just as much at the end of the day.
Disc of metal.
No, I reject the shiny disc, and you have to dodge that metal like you're playing Super Mario Brothers with the fireballs coming at you, because they all want to give you a medal at the end of it, but I do not want to bring home one with me. I do want the experience of the play that you had for 4 hours. I mean, that's the finish line isn't what you do it's the play. Yeah. And I think when John was in the wilderness, I mean, the baptism was an important, that's the thing that you went out there for, just like the finish line was the thing you went out there for. But the being out there and the what they were doing to prepare the way was really the thing that was happening. And there is an element of play to that is serious. I mean, it's serious enough that we see in the end that what he's really promising is rest. Even in the out in the wilderness struggle, even in playing or in the drinking and eating, in the end, it's the idea is you can set down the need for a finish line and find rest in whatever way feels like rest.
I think that also translates to RPGs too, because like as we were saying 2 weeks ago, there's no real end to a campaign. Like the campaign might end, but that's not your goal necessarily. The goal is to continue the story, to be invited and to continue on in that process. And I think I hear that here too. The invitation to play is more important than the actual end point.
What game you're playing is not the important thing here. The idea is, are you willing to set down all the things that you thought mattered and become part of this other thing? We've gotten into enough of a rabbit hole that I don't even know if I believe what I'm saying anymore, Bob, but it sounded good.
No, I mean, I think there's a lot to this, that and the nature of the game changes over time. It evolves with the people who are playing it, as they develop trust, as they develop greater understandings of themselves as players and of the characters they are playing. You know, both of those things shape, I would think, the nature of the game. And maybe you come to a point where the game has changed so much that it is time to end this particular campaign and to come up with something that is different but a continuation, and that feels like life to me.
And there's sometimes in campaigns where you as a player might think, okay, my character story has reached a point where I don't know if I want to continue this story, but everybody else is still enjoying the story. What if I find a way to change characters to take, this character no longer adventures with that group, but I still want to play with the group, obviously, so I bring a new character.
So I was going to ask, is that even allowed? Yeah. And then I'm realizing that's like a totally wrong question.
Yeah, I don't even play, but I've seen enough memes about people talking about how movies should have a character disappear and the same actor comes back playing another one to know that is a common thing.
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr.
Don't get me started. I think the end of this, right? Of course, this is one of Jesus's greatest hits, right? They come to me, all who are weary.
Yeah.
But what is the heavy burden, right? The heavy burden is being too serious, too important. Like you're too important, and Jesus is saying you don't have to do it. Life isn't all that. Let me come to me, learn this way, right? And play becomes I think it's much more helpful in this sense. The release of the burden is play, right? It's a much better way of existence in that front.
And this is the same Jesus in the same gospel who tells his followers 2 weeks ago that they ought to take up their cross and follow him. And so I have to think that there is a connection here between the yoke and the burden and the cross. What are you thinking of that?
I think the type 2 fun, the type of fun that is running marathons, that is doing dangerous things, that give you the adrenaline rush, all that I did the thing that hurt in order to have the fun it's not a perfect analog because the cross is not fun. But the cross had purpose that had value. And when you don't look at it as just the burden put on me, but a purpose given to me, in the same way that type 2 fun can become fun even with the pain, all of a sudden the cross can become a thing that we find valuable in life. I'm back to the idea of funerals and sitting with someone who is dying in a hospital. All of us, unlike our usual guest, all of us here have experience with that. That is not a fun room to be in.
Oh, no.
That is a beautiful room to be in.
Absolutely.
And I think there's something to that the cross is not an easy burden, but it can be a light burden.
I tell folks all the time, I'll take 12 funerals over a wedding any day.
Oh,
I mean, if we want to get really at the heart of it, that becomes that the holy ground of someone's at the side of someone's deathbed is unbelievable. And not that there's not holy ground in weddings.
Yeah, they're both beautiful, but just in completely different ways.
Well, and there's a purpose in the approaching death. As a pastor, I know that 9 out of 10 weddings you do, if you put a cardboard cutout of me up in the church, let them take their pictures and go have their drinks, they'd be just as happy.
Yeah.
Where in that hospital room, there is the interaction that you're talking with the role-playing game. We are all serving a function here. The person who is dying is crossing over to their eternal home. They are really fulfilling that space in life that we all have to go to, and in many ways showing us how to do it. We are supposed to be the ones that are showing you how to do it, but all we are there is letting them know that you're the one paving the way. There's family members that are needing all of this in order to start grieving appropriately. I mean, when it is done well, that isn't to say that there's a right way to do it for people who are listening who aren't regularly in those spaces. There isn't a right way to do it. There's a million well ways to do it. And when you're in the space that it is being done one of those well ways, you are watching humanity often at its not best, at its most. It's just and I think that there is something of, we associate play with fun in a lighthearted, childlike way, but when you're being that most fully human, there is an element of play to it, of we are living into our roles completely here.
And play, I'm thinking about the different meanings of the word, and one nuance of play is like something has play in it. It's got looseness, it's got flexibility, it's got room to move if it has play. And so I think there are ways of thinking about play that are creating space and are creating just enough room for people to move into a better position or a more comfortable position or a more useful position, that it creates openings where there weren't openings. And I think that is part of the value of it, that it's not just fun. Fun is important. Fun, I don't want to trivialize fun, but I think play is more...
Well, I mean, Jesus' end on it. John's the type 2 fun. Jesus is the type 1 fun. Let's have a drink and a party.
Jesus got a little hedonism going on.
Mm-hmm. But Jesus is also playful in ways that are much less obvious, and I love that about him. You know, the wordplay, the nicknames, the punning, and the way that he does the collaborative storytelling. We've talked on this pod before about ways that Jesus will say something that is ambiguous, and then he will let the person he's talking to make a necessary decision about how will I understand this weird thing that the teacher just said. You must be born anothen, either again or from above, and you're stuck having to figure out what did he mean, and then he rolls with it and he makes it up as he goes in collaboration with you. And that is playful in a way that is just good leadership and good teaching and good humaning.
And good being a DM.
Yes.
That is exactly what a good DM will do too. Just here's the thing, leave it open. It could go either direction. Which way are you going to take it? Where are you going to go?
DM Jesus. What's his campaign like?
I don't know, but I want to be part of that game.
Uh-huh.
I mean, isn't that life, really?
I guess.
That's
There's the dice rolls are somewhere else though, because I've yet to just stop and roll a dice and then decide from there where I'm going to go.
see, I
That'd make
I
life
find
so much
myself
more
doing
tedious,
that all
though.
the time. And it's,
How many sides?
I'm actually now I'm trying to think of dice roll
Jesus
analogs
has?
in life.
Jesus is up there with like a handful of Google-sided dice. Yeah, a die with
die
a
is a
with a
single,
with a Google sides on it. Yeah, not Google GLE, Google GOL.
Yeah.
That's the math.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
The,
a math.
the math Google.
Yeah, the math.
Yes.
Google.
Or a Googleplex.
That's a lot of sides.
Well, if
What number do you need to be
you're
successful?
If you're gonna roll the dice for the universe, Einstein. Yeah, well, I just kind of dropped the bomb right there.
I'm still trying to think of real life analogs for rolling dice, and I'm coming up with nothing.
Hey, but I like the rolling dice because going back to my one-time gaming, that was how we completely created my character. And by we, I mean Ryan on my behalf. You remember that, right?
I do. We just went to what was it? I can't even remember.
So I was feeling a little bit awkward about creating a character with a character sheet, and I said, "Look, could you just roll the dice for all of these numbers for me, and whatever the dice come, that is what my character will be."
You were a gnome barbarian or something.
Halfling barbarian. Yes,
that was it.
Halfling barbarian, which is kind of an unlikely sort of a character, and I loved it. I could not be happier with Bobbert the Halfling barbarian, and it was for me. So I was curious because you said the first character tends to reflect the person, and in one way that is completely not reflective of me, but maybe roll the dice to tell me who I am. Maybe that is deeply, profoundly reflective of me. I'm going to have to take that to my therapist.
Or to the next DM table, gaming table, because
And we can work it out there.
there you go.
But that was an interesting experience of having to create a character and say, who will this person be? And who will I be playing them? Spoiler alert, it turns out that Bobbert likes to lick things, like everything.
Everything.
But
Everything. There's
stuff.
there's a gate before you. What will you do?
Lick it.
Can I lick it? Yes, I
You
can.
can certainly try.
Yes. Poor Ryan put up with so much licking in
It wasn't
that.
just me. It was Lauren too.
Yeah.
She. Yeah.
All the licking.
But it was an endearing trait for Bobbert.
I'll read that book.
Bobbert.
No, just
Bobbert licks a gate.
Bobbert
Robert licks a gate. Written from Bobbert's perspective with
You
an 8
gate
intelligence.
licker.
Yeah, he's not the brightest bulb in
No.
the. He's probably licked the brightest bulb and regretted how hot that was on his tongue, but
Can I lick it?
Hair standing on its edge was
Can I
fun.
lick it?
So we've got 4 pastors around here today as we approach the end of time. How do you guys
We're
want? How do
approaching
you
the
guys
end
want?
of
How do you guys?
time.
Yes, we are approaching the end of time, not
of
the time
time.
of the episode.
We are in the end of time.
We are in the end of times, and we're approaching them. So how do you how do you want to sum up this passage in a way that seems pithy and meaningful?
wow, you are demanding pith.
I am. That often ends up being. I try and come up with a like a Jerry Springer pithy moment at the end, and
I need to roll a 20-sided die to see how well my pithy comment will be.
Why so serious?
complete with the facial expression. That was good. Yes, listeners, you really ought to pull that up on
Have you
YouTube
ever
so you can
danced
see.
with the devil by the pale
Dance with
moonlight?
the Devil, the Pale Moonlight, yeah.
I feel like this means that our sermons are going to be
Really bad.
yeah. And by the way, this is a 4th of July weekend also, so you know.
I'll be on vacation.
No wonder.
I will be in the woods, not LARPing. I'll just be at Camp Lutherland, which Pastor Brian has
You
on
didn't
his
call
shirt.
me to supply for you.
That's because Carol does it. I have a lay preacher.
All right.
Yeah.
Whatever.
I make no
I have two.
mention of 4th of July in service at all.
Likewise.
Yeah, Memorial Day I will lift up because even though it is a secular holiday from the nation and not from the church, grieving with people is a task of the church. I will do
Important.
Memorial Day in the church. The fact that our nation became a secular nation is not anything that I find of value to lift up in the church service.
So I normally do take that position. This year I am engaging just because of the semi-quincentennial and all of the Christian nationalism that has been glommed onto that in ways that I think it's just so upsetting. I feel like it is a moment where church needs to be something other than that. And so the ELCA actually has some really good resources that they have pulled together for churches to use on that weekend if you choose. And we are going to be working with those. I don't yet know what I'm going to say. I know the service cannot be, and I don't want it to be simply celebratory. That's not the point. But it also can't avoid recognizing the goodness of place that God has given us, as well as reckoning with the reality of that place and of the people. Both of those things need to be held together. And
now that you bring it up, I may choose to have an MMA cage match on the church's lawn.
Do you need a fighter? Because, I mean,
You do. You've got your,
I know some people.
Your fighting experience.
I was like, you're in the
I mean,
woods, so
Yeah.
you won't be there. You
so
can still-
next time on
Yeah.
CPTV,
But if you know-
But if you know, send
MMA
people
fighters
over.
talking
We'll-
Bible.
We're putting an octagon out in front of the church.
You want to get some martial artists in here next time?
Yep.
All right.
I have. I've already told Bob if our experimental content is so listeners who would like to comment in some fashion to us, if you want more non-comedian content, the indie pro wrestlers, I think there's a good overlap between them and comedians and preaching too, and the same reason that there is a shared story that the whole place gets involved in with a similar rules of what we accept as parts of the story and what we won't accept as parts of the story. And for them, a whole lot more overlap with the comedian. So there's so much slapstick involved in it. I grew up with no overlap at all in wrestling, because the same way that seminary got me to understand some of the gamers, comedians overlap with pro wrestling has just let me see some of the world of the slapstick, just humor that's involved in that world. And so that is me just, I have nothing else to add to that, Bob.
It's pretty good, though.
Dear viewers and listeners, you may be witnessing in real time CPTB jumping the shark.
We have CPTB, we have CPTB short takes, and we need to have CPTB jumps to shark is one of our episodes.
CPTB shark jumps.
Yep.
There's your Shark Week content right there.
Excellent.
We're going to start having and you are not the father.
And I think that is the end of the episode. I know better than to ask you guys what you have coming up, unless in the 2 weeks that have passed.
You
I
got
do.
what?
In 2
Something?
weeks, and since the last 2 weeks, I remembered that in November, this is a wild one if anyone's listening for this, but in November 12th or 15th, I am going to be taking part. I've been asked to come talk about Star Trek for a geek gathering, God, and they're talking about God and the stars. So we're going to talk about Star Wars. We're going to talk about Star Trek. I'm probably going to run a little bit of a Star Trek role-playing game, just to have some fun with that. But that'll be in Luther Ridge in Asheville, North Carolina. So, folks,
all right,
sounds fun.
I think it's a really fascinating group of folks, and if anyone wants to join that, you can look it up at Luther Ridge website.
Quick question that must be asked. Out of all of the canon of movies, best Star Wars or Star Trek movie?
Two different worlds. It's apples and oranges, right? I mean,
you're gonna. All right, yeah, choose one of each.
No, right? It's got to be Wrath of Khan in Star Trek.
I would agree with that.
Although Undiscovered Country is a really close second in my book.
The one with the whale.
It's for that one is better than the God one, where they run into God and it's dumb. It's so dumb. I can't believe that got made. But so
No strong opinions
Khan,
on that.
but if you're gonna go, Star Wars. It's Rogue One, and I say that as Empire Strikes Back being my favorite, but Rogue One is great.
Ryan, you were concurring on Wrath of Khan.
I was gonna go, The Empire Strikes Back.
It's a close second in mine, but
I can see where you're coming from. Rogue One's good. Rogue One's real good.
Yeah.
Hey, find us on CPTB POD at CPTB Pod. We are nowhere near as awesome as Rogue One or Empire Strikes Back or The Wrath of Khan. We might be right up there with the movie with the whales.
I was not being sarcastic. That's a good movie.
And a double dumbass on you. Nobody got that.
No.
Damn it.
I didn't get it.
All right, you guys have to watch that movie again. I'm ashamed for all of you.
Okay, hit the button, Bob.
I hit the button, and that means that you've spent an hour with us. What were you thinking? But look, if you're offended in any way, we are sorry.
We tell you every time we are not sorry. Get some personal accountability. You do this to yourself.
You need help. But you know what? Since you did do this to yourself, why don't you also do some more things like liking and subscribing and sharing this with all kinds of neat people in your life?
Make the other people do it to themselves. It's a pyramid scheme. We need it.
Don't think less of us. But we will be back in a week with more funny and more God talk.
Until then, may the Holy Spirit do her thing in your life.
Double dumbass on you!